Thus I have heard. At one time, the Blessed One was dwelling in the royal domain of Vulture Peak Mountain with a great gathering of monks and a great assembly of bodhisattvas. At that time, the Blessed One was absorbed in the samadhi of the many aspects of phenomena called profound appearance. At the same time, noble Avalokiteshvara Bodhisattva Mahasattva, looking at the practice of the profound perfection of wisdom, saw the five skandhas in their natural emptiness. Then, through the power of the Buddha, Venerable Shariputra said to the noble Avalokiteshvara Bodhisattva Mahasattva, "How should a son of a lineage train who wishes to follow the practice of the profound perfection of wisdom?" Thus he spoke, and the noble Avalokiteshvara Bodhisattva Mahasattva answered the Venerable Sharadvatiputra with these words. Shariputra, those men and women of the lineage who wish to follow the practice of the profound perfection of wisdom should look at it like this. The five skandhas should be seen purely in their natural emptiness. Form is empty. Emptiness is form. Emptiness is not other than form. Form also is not other than emptiness. In the same way, feeling, recognition, compositional factors, and consciousness are empty. Shariputra, like this, all phenomena are emptiness, and having no characteristics, they are unborn and unceasing. They are not impure or pure. They neither decrease nor increase. Therefore, Shariputra, in emptiness, there is no form, no feeling, no recognition, no compositional factors, no consciousness, no eye, no ear, no nose, no tongue, no body, no mind, no appearance, no sound, no smell, no taste, no sensation, no phenomena. There is no quality of sight and so on until no quality of mind and no quality of mental consciousness. There is no ignorance and no exhaustion of ignorance and so on up to no old age and death and no exhaustion of old age and death. In the same way, there is no suffering, no origin, no ending, and no path. No wisdom, no attainment, and no non-attainment. Therefore, Shariputra, since there is no attainment, bodhisattvas rely on and abide by means of the profound perfection of wisdom. And since their minds have no obscurations, they have no fear. Transcending falsity, they attain nirvana. All the Buddhas who dwell on the three times have relied upon the perfection of wisdom, and have become true and complete Buddhas of unsurpassable, perfect, and complete enlightenment. Therefore, the mantra of the profound perfection of wisdom, the mantra of insight, the unsurpassed mantra, the unequaled mantra, the mantra which calms all suffering, should be known as truth, for it is not deceptive. The mantra of the perfection of wisdom is proclaimed. Teata om gate gate paragate parasamgate bodhi soha. Shariputra, this is how a bodhisattva mahasattva should train in the profound perfection of wisdom. Then the Blessed One arose from that samadhi and said to the bodhisattva mahasattva noble Avalokiteshvara that he had spoken well. Well done, O son of the lineage, it is so. O son of the lineage, since it is just so, the profound perfection of wisdom should be practiced just as you have taught, and the Tathagatas will also rejoice. When the Blessed One said this, the Venerable Sharadvati Putra and noble Avalokiteshvara Bodhisattva Mahasattva and the entire gathering, as well as worldly beings, gods, humans, asuras, and Gandharvas, rejoiced and praised the words of the Blessed One.
Lozo gyula buji dozi yula chuji yangdi su. Loda jiru nyamu nyamu deji jaju juzi chi. Mare mize doge nyugu chini chuzi riru. Dene daji saji dozi yudin lizu jasi duyu. Yara juda jini jiri dali min nyabe yana de arabada nani arabada nani arabada nani zedin chiji chira yudin Dali demo minba rase de Kada tenje jolo doba yi Lo zhe pabe nang lo do Lo ya zai jin de yin jin Yo ye jin wa ye me o ya bu Zhao ye zhe o ye ro ye li o ye zhe Niu ye de o ye zhe o ye bo ye de Song ye de o ye zhe o ye do Mi o ye de o ye de o ye o ye Do ye ge o ya no ya do ye zhe o ya no Xue ya bo ye yo ye yo zi lo ya mo Do ya bo ye zhe o ya no Yo ye zhe o ya ge o ya go ya lo Jin ya zi ya zhi ya zhi ya ni Jiu ya do ya zo ya bi Du ya zhao ya zi ya mo ya lo So ya jiu ya jiu ya jiu ya jiu O ya do ya do gu ru ru面对那个那样大呀也面我的早也那么直播大概时候面对的就了把这前边过的接送的 歌颂多觉无主自多平素给的喜悦之名故，桃园卓越人王公约颂，马列西家之间随便故，小姐做的老苏万遍。多劫千波地心多劫场，求在的罗波当那罗波，愿君中别波当阿地上，娘连心罗觉罗娑万遍，相波多灭一念那遮的，求点地狱的当照别别，在上各萨罗念斯林。了解识别觉了所闻的，上家呀月明书记恶着道，大我找不这边个着子，上界公众宝宝要是说，上摩大月觉了所闻的。协助当兵朝安阿爹上，嘎当定兵民帮中对接，念着那些过去送了送，嘎当那么能了所谓的，康健新的自己做个梦，我到这边我学的早些，当我定兵到不开着急。要随举报接了所望的，要做公的老梦多结账，刚了刚的些年去做的，就当天幕公主坐在边，真见老梦能了所望的，让家所着跟了大爷命。给上他把这边叫我叫，在月这边他看这把眼，生在些年那拉说话的，叫我更多养到那么多，这面去这边拉龙学经，撒当老子有点少做的。老觉将给公愿道一说三年就当初结就那了，你想求我把的大年就是的，那个去年去前见面做那的，到了本身三年如果说三年，就当初结就那了，想求把的大年就是。大约去见见面做那件，到了平时三件主播说三件，热当初见就那那想就不多大年就做，大约去见见面做那件，到了平时三件主播说。哎呀，哎呀妈的！哎呀，大他妈别别老死巴了，他妈的，我操这些年来什么小老千他不？
I think Nemo is missing right now.
Oh,
I just sent him a message.
yeah. 你们在这里上过的。
For the loser, Tibetan loser, Tashidele.
对起，他们说那个吃这些水果么过去。他给了去是哪里？给了去嘛，去那个吃现在去，给了得是价钱。我在那个对点把头上把上那去打，我让你他过的，你直接跑嘛这边，你直接那两对月呢，你大笔去今年这个月上面就7号钱了，要可给了这就那么他不就先说呢，等到是给嘛个呢，给再去啥着了，你就是就说的，这个根本你几年去没办法去解决的。
Let's begin with cultivating positive motivations by visualizing the Buddha in the space in front of oneself and surrounded by all the lineage gurus, and oneself is being in their presence to receive the teachings of the Dharma. And cultivating appropriate motivation is something that's very important. Even though one may not be able to comprehend the entire teachings, by cultivating motivation of this positive motivation will enable one to accumulate merits. So let's take a minute to meditate on it. With these motivations, with these positive motivations, the teachings we're receiving here today is the great deities on the stages of the path in enlightenment. Janchu Lam Rim which will then the text begin often with reading the 4 major outlines.
Gala lobby, Del Lobana, Della Jeda lobby, Baji, Tella, Tatomani Disa, Tella Jeda lobby, Balani, Shubachilla Hotel, Chiba, the Pasha Tamanilla, Tomodisa, the Pasha Taman Hotelani, Chanel Hotel, Hadon, Tatombola song, Shinejo so temper Della de Shinego, the two Bombe Shinedo, yes, Tama to Saji Tamadella, Tashinegi, pitching at the Tamas Havana, the Gombe Shinedo, saying it. Oh, 당연히 가시 타다 가네 나서 가데 되나 이시 되나 지 거스 샬라니 지 수도 거네 데려와
다와리 이름
어 되나 피지리 아니지 아야 당가서 사 될라다 당가서 사지 타마들라네 다시네 차저진 다 타마데 되되 아니 시내도 차소나네 라동 것도
So currently we're on the chapter of serenity as a part of the path. So the instructions on how to cultivate serenity is nearing completion. And once we have completed the explanation on the serenity as a part of the path, then this will then be followed by the insight for the lakon.
또 다른 것을 거기서 보고 가르쳐는 신내의 특수는 생활 된자 태발에마도 레카스 미스케지야 말와. 다 신내의 특수비 제라니 소소집이 이시라 수비 이시 dengi 토네. 얘네 이제 대시라게 넘어 제제 하도 제고야 난다. 다음에도 별 하도 제고야나. 되는 것은 로치대 송과.
So at this moment, the discussion that we are having here is to mere practice shamatha or karma abiding or the serenity. This is the only the discussion that we are having. And so once one is able to, practice the serenity, and then on the basis of this cultivation of serenity, one then begin to practice cultivation of insight, that special insight. Whether special insight belongs to mundanity, or it belongs to the noble path, or the super mundane.
당연히 가서 이시 주된 진도 되게 다 제시로 전달을 해. 되는 이시 되는 것을 셔라 이지 수도 강네. 너무 bomba 임베 되게 강시네. 시라 소소시 된 되니 라양. 말에 된 되니 라 양다 양도 쉬어봐네. 사통 강바 인라. 양 쉬어봐 쉬비타 시라지 된 되나. 세지든 조바네. 신의 강바 신의 강바오 대다 강비 이시니 당 이시니 바레시 이시니 바당 당보네 신지비 년보오 소.
So let's begin reading with the text at page 100, the first paragraph, beginning from first paragraphs, which says, thus in the context of these types of attention, you eliminate afflictions after you have meditated by way of both serenity and insight. Here's how you cultivate the two. You cultivate insight by repeatedly analyzing the distinct object of calmness and coarseness, and at the conclusion of this analysis, you cultivate serenity by one-pointedly focusing on the object of calmness and coarseness. The second and the first types of attention is such meditation are the antidote of disillusionment.
Teta shila nyinga remes gamba kombala tenen debi nyumun chimbi nyebo jeba na rode imba yishi jesha wo sonda yishi to yishi song nganzi jesare di.
So then here's the third attention. Here it says, on the basis of familiarizing yourself with alternating cultivation of serenity and insight, in that way, you give rise to the antidote to the great affections of the desirums. This is called isolated attentions. With this, we have covered 3 types of attention.
Ni shiwata umala rabata ngi lotigi ni umala nyime ta gamala shiwata be lotigi chebache chebata bin juto teni la yang sechi de nyamba ja yang nyanja tene dangse na re konje shila sonde do ton ro jene yonjo chebache yonjo jene kombara de pene ni konde ro sigi yishi min ta chitere lotini kombaro.
So it's actually, talks about the single-pointed and or observed meditation, which is one single-pointedly meditating, remaining on one focusing on one object of meditation without going through any analysis. And then the other time, when one arises from that particular meditative serenity, one then go through the analytical meditations, analyzing whether the grossness or the calmness, or whether one is engaging in the analysis of how things really are and so forth.
nga tsuge ye bena ye shan bena sato mo ni bana kesi shewe de nyoma la ko shewe de nyoma chungun rin chimo inde chimo sonso shewe de tande te na gi chen bena de bi nyoma la ni rab ni mi ta yon de kala inde bi nyoma la tombo de la rapa sen de chimbo ni ni de bi nyoma rin ma de ba rapa de ban rin de ba chungin sen ya wa shen ni bo te tande te ma ji chi gi ten de ma la nya le che yon bi kala ni nyoma thara ge na ba de lo la cha chi la ta ta le yon ko.
So when one is on the actual spiritual path or the bhumi, in other words, one is on the first bhumi, one then go through the process of applying antidotes towards the gross level of the most the great gross, gross level of mental or the defilements, the middling defilements, and subtle defilements. Similarly, when it comes to this particular, in the context of this particular, practice, we're talking about, we're not really talking about the actual delusions or the defilements. We're talking about that only the gross level of defilements of the desirums, that the great level of defilements of the desirums, the middling level of desirums, and the subtle level of defilements of desirums, which is referring to the gross level of attachment, actually.
Pon ne bana gawa deba yishi peche yishi jeba de insai de yishi ji tene gejon gewala jowa la geshi bin de bin nyumo dingen zen la ne batan tele lambi kos mejewa ton na da ne ku nyumo panso nya to toba simbo mesheba shoba shede jin jir mari chiche da de pala ndumbi chabada ma jejendo mejoa yena de chabada jene mejoa yenyane de sibi shedo chai shindu dubashila mibana chabachewa tone Te Pambi Shedo Gambala Gawane, Shubi Shedo, Shubi Shedo, so. De Ma Pambala Panso, Naje Pamo, so. Shishibata didn't Maloshan, decided Maloshan.
That's all.
Because true, no, but trouble because she will chat to somebody.
No. Okay. So next is the fourth. Further, the attention of delight or withdrawal is when you are able to eliminate middling afflictions by means of alternating cultivation of serenity and insight. And next is the fifth. Then when you see that the desirums, affections that obstruct your endeavors in the virtue are not cultivated, either while abiding in the concentration or when you are arising from it, you do not have the coarse thought. Now I have eliminated the affections. Rather analyzes is the attachment of sensual attraction not being activated while I'm not free from it, or is it not activated after I have been freed from it? Then in order to test this, watch attachment arises when you focus on a very beautiful object of attachment. Thereafter, you interested in meditation for the sake of eliminating the attachment is analytical attention. This gets rid of the conceit of thinking that you have eliminated that which has not been eliminated.
Tendere pena mazuko jilo loji kumba chene peche hanong peche debi nyumo ngote chego mendo san debi desha rabu ngote chego mendo san tanda de shira no ba chenje lang nyasa ne be jari ma do dame keche yo ma tanda pena shiro ba de tumo nyasa ne tendere ji ko lo loji kumba shu chen ba le be kala ta debi desha rabu ngote chego mendo san be so so chana le be kala ta de kare chen nga jogo ma be de nge pon sa re be pon me ba ne kare chere san ta che che be tanda la yini yang yi to mo chi le me ba chene ne do 제거도 왔다네. 근데 제거야나 내가 니만가를 문두세 내가 지게래 샤마도 단단 두세네요. 그 소속이 나지기 님보대 냐래 정해 속도는 제거도 대송도 왔다.
So this talks about now at this point we're mere eliminating the that desire or the defilements of the desire realms. It is not that we are actually uprooted. We are able to uproot this attachment and so on, because when we are in the meditation, or by focusing on the grossness or the calmness. At the moment of such practice or meditation on grossness or calmness, one may not find a very manifest level of attachment. However, that is not to say that one have actually uprooted attachment. If one is able to test oneself by focusing on the attractive object of attachment, to see whether you still have attachment or not. If you see there's attachment, you have some kind of, sense of attaching towards or feeling, or some kind of feeling of not willing to be detached from that particular object, then you have not actually uprooted your attachment. Mere suppressed your attachment of the desire realms, which is not to say that you have actually uprooted attachment.
당 시비 타 제지든 조바 니가 셰신 강바 강베 데비 뉴모 충이 네버 제바나 조아타이 조아타투비 일라셰바 주바데제 이시 손바다 제바 주바네 뉴모 뽕이 네버 데타 뉴모 바 충모 뽕바는 데비 뉴모 먼저와 탕치 정내 제시라 존재장 미조와 셰데지 사변된 정반의 메노 춘데 진메 menshela chabata chewa shela siji nyumone ngonji chang go minibe kwale geba miniso chang santen la tene ngomba shiba nga yang toba shede deda gene si ngewen jibe majite jeban nesane shube deda tawa shawo sondo.
And the sixth attention word says, and again you both analytically discriminate the object of calmness and closeness as before and focus one-pointedly at the conclusion of analysis. The attention of final application is when by meditating in this way, you give rise to the antidote to the small reflections of the desirums. The third, fourth, and sixth starts of attention are antidotes that eliminate afflictions. 7. Thus, when you have eliminated the small afflictions, you have overcome all the manifest afflictions of the desirums. And for the time being, they are not activated in the slightest degree, but they have not completely destroyed the seat of those afflictions. By this means, you are freed from attachment to states up to nothingness. But since you are unable to stop even the manifest afflictions of the peak of cyclic existence, you cannot transcend the cyclic existence. However, on the basis of meditative stabilization, you also achieve the 5 kinds of super knowledge. But I shall not discuss them due to fear of verbosity, since this is elaborated upon in the Asanga's Shervaka level. Look there.
되게 되게 가르쳐서는 단다 되게 샤라 넘어 전jal한테 되피 녀모라 니보 따치데 되발자 안 대나게 서대 동번이 봐 아니 좀에 지기는 게 좀에 타마 찌면 면셔라 샤라 넘어 전jal한라 때네 니 대다 되게 녀모라 차제 제투고레스 아니 실제 생애의 녀모다라 차제 제투고 말은 뭐 니바자요 요거 말에 대체발라 니 실제 세대 코하게 타마 인자네 대라 인지미지 남에 또 비셔라기 거고 그래스
So here now what it says it says it is by means of eliminating the small afflictions. It says you have overcome all the manifest afflictions from the desirums of the desirums, and for the time beings they are not activated slightest degree. It's the same thing, but you have not completely destroyed the seat of afflictions. That means you have not uprooted the seat of afflictions. But this means you are free from attachment up to nothingness, or up to nothingness. Yeah, but since you're unable to stop even the manifest afflictions of the peak of cyclic existence. So, in order to eliminate the manifest afflictions of the peak of cyclic existence, one need to go through the analysis of the selflessness, or the how self really are. Without going through the meditation on selflessness, there's no way that one can actually get rid of the manifest afflictions of the peak of cyclic existence.
남의 시제바드세디 코아게지 야타마탄데 지시오라 야타마타세나레 롬바기 내단데 지시행에나 아니 마이 메게게 타셔들라 요 남의들이 야게 타이데 아니 시제제에서네 제가 거의 내단 문제인데 던 제거래 시제를 개선나 코알게 게도 가지 시제 녀모도 타셔래
So the cyclic existence is actually the demarcation of cyclic existence. Its beginning existence are beginning from hell realms to the peak of cyclic existence, and whoever have taken rebirth within this existence, beginning from hell to the peak of existence, by means of by the force of karma and affliction, is said to be samsaric beings. So here it says now, although that one may gain, here it says, on the basis of meditative stabilization, you also achieve the 5 kinds of super knowledge. But I shall not discuss them due to the fear of perversity, since this is elaborated upon the Asanga Shabaka level. So look there. So here it's Lama Tsongkhapa advised us to go through the study of the Shabaka levels, Asanga Shabaka levels.
Tata mebe dedagi gosa chisa meme jang denala chichi zangde masongye gowa jena dingen zin yenju gosa jobala shindene pemba nango de tabi sangden jetan zume jeyi dingen zinda ngoba sheba ngane shirabada tumuwa yinbe de rayi dingen zin cheba jen tau jang de zangju kuwale mejowa mazi dedagi jang Kwa chime, shene zangji chu xie mejawa suso tobi hatong dami bi tawa zeba xiao sondo.
Nowadays, there is no one who used this method to accomplish the actual meditative stabilization and so on. So there's no one to lead astray. Nevertheless, if you generate an understanding that is not confined to a mere general verbal descriptions of them, it is very helpful to avoiding the pitfall of concentrations other than this. Such concentrations of the 4 meditative stabilizations of the form realms, and the 4 meditative absorptions of the formless realms, as well as the 5 kinds of super knowledge, are shared with non-Buddhists. So even if you achieve such extraordinary concentrations, not only will you not be liberated from this from the cycle of existence by this alone, they even bind you to the cycle of existence. Therefore, seek discerning insight and a view of selfnesses, and do not be satisfied with serenity alone.
Pansa kama chikoso chigu dedo shirat yenda ngada ozi. Pansa kama chujasha.
So let's take 10 minutes break here.
Tell me, see, and he just can do that. Can you tell me the chibachi? So there's the machine of the super cover shoe, but you know, dog may be tall months, and it's a kitchen, my son. You can leg about Kajaranja dead or Takanje.
All this the practice of meditative observations, form realms, and the four meditative observations, the formless realms, and the cultivation of this 5 super knowledge, the 5 achievement of the 5 kinds of super knowledge, and so forth, are all common practice to both Buddhists and non-Buddhists. It is only by the practice of insight and the view of selflessness is the distinct practice, or it's the exclusive practice of the Buddhist practitioner.
Sante tombo la subi nguji dulu na jeba mashe na mashi bi shene san ila sheba sheshawa de ma sheshawa de dulu shinda sabin do shiraji parada shimba la soba ne senjo tsu gosumba sumba omi gone de koba nga chamba tang de gomba do de jen de chewa tang papa tomeji shansa tang ngomba Goma da tela o diwa de diwa chi de tela obi diwa do de sonshi diwa le shela ni nyesa la shepang zeba ta nyesa ni jeba tewa ta de na je ten omi gon re ta sheshe menga do somba ta yen yang yu ta ne pang bin de shi je ne pa nga pong chi ta jeba shine dulu somba na je nimbo na lepa ta de ronso tang chewa temba tsang re nyeba sheba shago de sante ba kachi la ne ale shago de singo te ba jilo re ti ma wan chen bo de
So even if you lack extensive knowledge of the means of accomplishing the actual first stabilization and so on, you should certainly look carefully into the heart of the following discussions and come to know at least something of the teachings themselves, free of your own fabrications. The discussion given by the first, it says the discussion given above concerning the 9 ways of focusing your mind set forth in the previously cited Mahayana Madhyamaka stages of meditations that are the means of accomplishing the aforementioned serenity or attention that comes from the profound perfection of wisdom sutra, etc. Second, their intended meaning as expounded in Maitreya's ornament for the Mahayana Sutras. Third, the Noble Asanga's summary discussions of them in this Bodhisattvas, in his Bodhisattvas level compendium of knowledge and compendium of determinations. An extensive explanation of them in this Shavaka levels, levels determinations and extensive explanation of the Shavaka levels in accordance with the indication in the compendium of basis and Vastu Samgrahara, that both serenity and insight are discussed in the Shavaka levels. Both the discussions of their meaning in the Madhyamaka stages of meditations and Ratnakara Sati's instructions for the perfection of wisdom, and also the fifth, the way to accomplish serenity through the 8 antidotes and the ways of eliminating 5 faults in Maitreya's separation of the middle from the extremes.
shene drone shung chimbo da tena drutsi de sheba chego ore deta sheba maja na ani ma kashi ne ring ore yesa na wona so.
So to engage in the proper practice of serenity must be followed by the studies of all those authentic teachings that we have mentioned main teachings, the source of the teachings that are mentioned here in this text.
Lane Mizayam Mindula Yung Chemo the Somba the Mizayam Mindus on to Belcon Araba the Sero Kajilane Hod Jun Chewa knowledge Jambi Dus Cizan Yejang Dene Lepa Magoy Junji Magoye Shin Yang Se Gopa Meba Tone Zime the body Jangwe Goa Lepa Mi Mashibi Das Shineji Shosu Durun du rong ale tingen zere tabana tomba ni ji tingen zin zimba nangla shena ni ki tingen zi timo sene gopa zangshi tana nenjo lame ji zorin chini changwa shongwan deba tang nyajin jene metobi yishi jin michi den deba mango hashiba nang lepa sheba lepa nyena ne Mime dang seme dang nye de gambala sobi mi nye taba sanji michuwa dingen ze deyi dendo sone lanji kwa sa dang magawa kwa sa ma kwa de kwa lanji kwa sa dang mago sa sheban jowe yung tsede de dagi sombi dingen ze drubi Rimbala Kapa Shao Tajari Juntan those high great gajen. Then the Mongo Shuri Tanjama Shui Chadro did Tanapala Redwa great.
Some practitioners of meditative stabilizations are not even familiar with the mere names of these meditations. Some become familiar with some become familiar with just the words. Then they study words, they study the classics, but they do not properly understand the meaning. When they then get around to practice, they see no need for those treaties. Discard them as being of no account, and sustain their meditations. Consequently, when they achieve a state of concentrations that is fit to be included in the category of serenity, they maintain that it is concentrations on emptiness, which is an indication that they have not that they have not discerned the point of the practice with careful understanding. When they achieve merely the ninth mental state, which is concentration common to both Buddhists and non-Buddhists, they claim to have experienced the completion stage of Ice Yoga Tantra with its complete characteristics. Many of these persons, after they have mingled meditative vikalpas with the post-meditation state, mystically assert that this experience is uninterrupted, non-discursive wisdoms. When you gain a proper serenity concerning the previous explanations, you will not be deceived by the mere designation of such enticing terms as meditation on the objectless and singleless and the definite meanings. By knowing that extent of the meaning of these concentrations, you will recognize that are not divisions from the deviations from the path. Therefore, become skilled in the stages of accomplishing the concentration taught in the authoritative treatises. Here I say.
민변은 가서 샤자바데 집에는 하나 조림바다 등지기 타니 체대다 베데 미마시베 따르 손도아 대단 의원의 지로와 이도 좀에 제바 제면 제와제 제면 셰베 일을 세바 상지 데세모 또바 되어지 이제 당제데 되는 가는 요구 많아 가서 의원의 시행도 계속 가서 등지기 제면 또 별로 된 가서 라질이 제가 말해 당요 그 통마 것 중에 타만 회사 때를 선언도나
So those practices such as serenity and concentration of nothingness are the common to Buddhist, common to non-Buddhist practice, non-Buddhist tradition as well. It is not exclusive to the Buddhist tradition because Buddha Dhamma, the practice of the Buddha Dhamma, because just mere maintaining such practice will not actually eliminate our actual delusions or the mental afflictions. Mental affliction can be eradicated only by, cultivating wisdom realizing self-conscious. So therefore, it is important for us to not only become a complacent of studying a partial text or just looking at some text, but rather one should look at the authentic classic texts written by the great Indian masters and study and try to gain the insight into the detailed insight into those texts. Then one will be able to understand whether one's practice is really becoming a remedy towards one's afflictions or not. Otherwise, just mere having those calm abidings and sudden meditative absorptions may, mistakenly claim to be a great practitioner of the completion stage, and as well as the practitioner of great seal or practitioner of great perfections and so on. In brief, if one's practice is directing towards liberating oneself from samsara, one should then go through the studies of the great deities that has been recommended by the Lama Tsongkhapa in this particular text. Otherwise, if one discards that, if one is not becoming familiar with such texts, then one's practice will not be different from the practice that of non-Buddhist practitioner. So now from this, it is a form of advice given by the Lama Tsongkhapa at the end of the teachings of serenity. So he has written this in the form of verses, where he says, profound are the descriptions of the stages of the achieving concentrations, well taught in the sutras and the great commentaries. Those of little intelligence do not precisely comprehend them, projecting the faults of their own mind upon others, thinking there are no instructions, therefore sustaining non-discursive awareness. They do not look for them in texts that have them, and they think they have found them after diligently seeking them where they do not exist. Such people fail to distinguish between even the concentration of the Buddhists and non-Buddhists. And what need then is there to mention they're precisely distinguishing the differences between concentration of the Mahayana, Anyana, and Vajrayana, and Paramitayana. Seeing this situation, I've explained these simple words, the way to sustain concentrations as taught in the classics.
Any Shiroba number you shenegi chebata machina, Teba Chejo, the Doji Tebala Soba Yitedada, Michel de Shechogose. Sondor, Tampin Chogos. So you submit the messages on the one shadow.
So then, if one is not diligent or to look at those texts, that is above mentioned texts by the Lama Tsongkhapa, to practice, meditative serenity and the process of meditations, and they are given very profoundly and vastly by those great masters, without looking at them, without going through the studies of them, just mere looking at other texts that mention a little bit of that, at the partial, teachings of them, and thinking that we're actually practicing serenity will be a great mistake. So here now, at that time in the Tibet, so whoever has actually gained the high levels of realizations, it is they have not gained their high levels of realizations of those great beings in the past without going through the studies of the great deities written by the great Indian masters. So those deities are translated and explained very precisely by the past great beings. It is just like illuminating a light in the darkness, which is actually a great gift that is given for us.
Junlu Chela Loma Jambai, Droda Rangi Nobu Rinpoche, Dwane Genji Chewe Maneba, Jean La Renchen Yoba Chemba Zo Sone, any Casa Pagot Loja Senare, any Dichirendo.
So then Lama Tsongkhapa says that I shall explain in simple words, repeating the ways to sustain concentrations as taught in the classics. or friends who have trained for many years in the classes, do not discard your or the precious gem in favor of others' custom jewelry, but recognize you have something of great value.
Pena nga la ne du cha de mi shi ma dong chi dang nga pe kan je jong la de de ko la ji gi den de ni gi den de se de ba de ni sa gi shu sa ji me che ba yin se ne de ri ji le ri ji kan se chen ne yong chen mo la je ne dang ye jong mo do ba ru ji ko ji la
좀 이제 연계 손나가 된다 가르쳐
nga chu chu ta so so se na re chu ta ke che se na de ne ji nga chu ji gi den ne ju re ji ba dang ji gi de ba ni gi de ma re se na den ji me nga chu chu ji la ba ji ba de ri ji kan se de ji chen ne ba ji yong chen mo se de ba de ko ji do sha so ne ji la men se chen ne den ji gi na ta ji la ni ji rong ji pe ba ro.
So it happens in Tibet, unfortunately, in the past. There are many who were merely focusing on the texts by claiming that those texts are revealed by the treasure discoverers, and it is the great master who actually discovered those texts by the treasure discoverers, and then not really going through the extensive studies of the great, the classics, that the classical texts of the Indian masters, but rather those classical texts of the Indian masters are not really useful. This is how those great beings have a misconception with regard to the great, great deities. And at that time, when the Tibetan practitioners are going through such chaos situations with regard to their practice and studies, then Lama Tsongkhapa emerge. So it is therefore, again, the verse that Rinpoche is repeating, O friend who have trained for many years in classics, do not discard your precious gem in favor of others' custom jewelry, but recognize you have something of great value. So then here it says, there's nothing apart from the meaning of the instructions in the deities you have studied. Knowing this, the master of the sage said, there's blessed in the forest for those of great learnings. Analyze these words. So this is the message. Analyze these words, or this place in the forest for those of great learnings. Analyze these words. It is referring to the Buddha's words. Buddha, after his enlightenment, Buddha said that the nectar-like phenomena that I have found, is so profound. But if I go out and teach these teachings, there will be no one who would actually comprehend my teachings. But rather, I just stay in this beautiful forest peacefully and so forth, right? So this is what it really means. The verse, this verse, the place in the forest for those of great learning, great learnings. Analyze these words, because when sometime when you have this, when you gain this, such realizations, authentic realizations, and such realizations are something that is very hard for others to comprehend. And it is something that is very hard for others to comprehend, that your realizations, regardless of how much effort that you may put forth to explain your own realization, they may not understand. Then here it says, may even those meditators who place their hopes in sheer determinations, though they have not first acquired a proper discernment of how to practice and the measure of success for the path of a fully non-discursive focus serenity. So it always says, try just not be complacent with one, partial teachings of the practice of this serenity. Rather, one should always go through and look very precisely and, put one's effort to really find an actual text that actually teaches, precise teachings on the stages of the practice of serenity. Therefore, it says now, without going through the studies of the great deities written by the great Indian masters, just mere focusing on one partial teachings that given by some teachers and so on, will not really take you further, or will not really take you forward towards, elimination of reflections or the sustenance, or it will not become a favorable condition for sustaining the teachings of the Buddha Dhamma. Rather, it may become a destructive of the teachings of the Buddha Dhamma. So then it says, come to knowledge precisely the way to sustain meditation and the reliance of the learned. Otherwise, there's less harm if they take for a while a refreshing break from the teachings of the conquerors. This explanation of the way to achieve serenity using the deities of the Maitreya and Asanga is for the sake of preserving for the long time the teachings of the conqueror. Among the stages of the path of the person of great capacity, this concludes the explanation of how those who are training in the deeds of the Bodhisattvas train in the serenity, which is meditative stabilization.
맨날 처음에 되는 저당 되니 사지 되니 바로 그냥参加 이용지도 하통.
So, you have questions, I'll take a couple of questions. Otherwise, I will just, cover a few paragraphs in the next, insight, because it actually, continues. Although it says that it's the serenity teachings of the path, the serenity as the path of path is completed, but it still continues to the next chapter as well. So I think it is appropriate to go through that today.
Rinpoche, I just want to make sure that I understand the difference between the pliancy and meditative state of a non-Buddhist and someone who continues along the path of insight. Because I wasn't clear where the dividing line was. I had the impression before this that when one achieves single-pointed concentration, that one had great pliancy. And there's a lot of bliss associated with that. And I want to make sure I understand how that's different from what one attains by following the Buddhist path. And I'm understanding, and maybe I'm not right, but what I'm understanding is that when one applies insight, one causes afflictions to no longer manifest, and that's what results in the serenity that Jade Tsongkhapa is talking about. Is that correct?
So just want to make sure that you said the single point in meditation and pliancy, the difference between the two. And then also you said insight. When you can you repeat that? I was not very clear.
I just want to make sure that I see if I understand what it is that one is aiming at when one applies insight after achieving single-pointed concentration, and how it's different from what a non-Buddhist or someone with mistaken views might do. And I had been of the impression that mental pliancy came with single-pointed concentration. And so I guess I think I'm understanding that serenity comes from the insight that follows from a Buddhist practitioner analyzing and then going back into concentration, meditative concentration, and reaching a point where afflictions no longer manifest. And that is the difference. Is that correct? Is that clear enough, or am I still muddling it?
So I will talk to Rinpoche about that.
Okay.
Yeah. Further than the direction. Around than the day. Chida and the lockdown than the Jigden be lockdown, the Jigden the devil of us new say by your of us. Ganda lockdown ni even nane and the lockdown the Ganda coil lockdown de Shinigi shell to very good, yeah. Give over away, Shinigi will give over this, and the lockdown the gym that. Ganda lockdown Shinigi Cavalia and Lissum Shinjang the work Rangul give over us. The Namji Koran some done the kind of check from the same Sejiba was Rangul Kevin. Rangul Kevin, any call Lissum Shinjang the wadi. Same Jejik was Rangul Kevin can get so Dewaji water still and Lissum Shinjang the Wamuzi Janet Duburbes. And then the Nangwegi Shine to that the Chive Shine to Dangi, the Caber de Numoli Yabuki Kemaki Cabareves, 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 the next the Horon some down that the Kandichi Koji some Jarish, Mendo Santorish. Around the
Tere, Nagani
You see,
Tombo
towards
Tombo
the-
Tombo Korsajan Dovjiro, Tate, Laton Yana Shenango to Dogobi, Chaps, Shenai La, Injimiji, Laton, Laton, Shenai Tango. Then Chanel, then Laton Chego, but the Gita Tombo.
So now first, one thing that we need to understand is the insight must be developed on the basis of development of serenity. Is that clear? This is one thing.
Ane, Nibadela, Sensitive Deva Sangela, Listen Shinjagi Deva Segomari, Listen Shinjagi Devana, Ludan Senegal around to Jean Matopado, Chetan de Kansa Rani, Pemba Canton Batini, listening the good Ronji, Chabi Komado, Deva Heba Sanji, Zechi, Nana Deva Heba Sanji, and Listen Shinja Deva Segomari. And Listen Shinjagi Deva Hebi Kola, and Ludan Seni de Kansagi Pemba Candid Thompson, and listen the Dogmari, listen on Tungi Chasari.
Just mere achievement of single pointedness will not enable one to realize or actualize this physical and mental pliancy. Because physical, once one is able to achieve the physical and mental pliancy, one is able to gain freedom of one's mind and the body. And one can sustain one's practice as one wishes, that regardless of how lengthy it may be, one will not have any experiences of exhaustions of physically or mentally.
Number the Shuruba, Shine Druba, the Numola Never Romo Mare, the number you Shine Drung Mombochi, Casanimonia Bondoma, Kanzarani, Tomami Karijan, Shine Drutsiremato, Numola Never Romo Chane, and Shine Shuruba, the number Cheva Shigmare, Tani Momboson, this one.
So one's practice of serenity, whether this practice of serenity will become antidotes towards one's afflictions or not, it depends on what kind of object of meditation that one has chosen. Because mere practice of serenity is just mere practice of serenity. Is no difference between the non-Buddhists and Buddhists. But when it comes to the application of antidotes towards afflictions, it depends on whether or not, and the object of meditation depends on what kind of object of meditation that one have chosen.
Pneumonia botte ba shene drutside peje tanda nga son debi nyamo shara na je lang gange de tanda namba le shiro ba ma yore tanda katugi nyebo tanda shiro ba to sa te shu che yo ro asa namba do ji chagi de dem go ne shene chete jonge je na dombo sen te ba yo di je la ni nyamo te ta de nyebo ro si le me ba ji sha je go ro shiro ba to sa thoma shene drubi ko rane debi nyamo la nyebo tang yo de mo bo ro ne tanda. So, and you are the Shetu Mari Chedina, Kanzai, Shanagi Chebachana, Miba Katale Jabaja Cheba Yoro.
So it is all because whether as an object of meditation, the chosen object of meditation is plays a key role in one's practice of serenity, whether that practice of serenity become a surface, antidote towards one's afflictions or not. But of course, the non-Buddhist practitioners, when they are meditating on when they are on the meditative serenity, they are actually observing the closeness and calmness, which actually directly, suppressing the attachment of desirums, and we're able to eradicate the the attachment of the desirums, the manifest level of attachment of desirums, which becomes very strong. I wouldn't say it's an actual antidote, but it's actually become a really strong for the time being. We're not letting those manifest, attachments arise, but were completely suppressed.
Anne?
I do not have a question, but I have something I'd like to share with Rinpoche and the group. A short story. May I?
Okay.
May I?
Wait a minute. Okay, let me talk to the Rinpoche about it. Okay. More mixing moralia, Jordan can get mess. More on that, Rinpoche down and then the shape. And the Nyambo post, someone lolly, more on chick, necessary.
Okay.
Please quiet.
Okay. Michael went to India and wanted to take a teaching from his teacher, but it was in Tibetan. And the teacher said, you can come, even though Michael doesn't speak Tibetan. And the other monks objected, he can't understand. And the teacher said, even a mosquito would benefit. So Michael stayed and did not understand one word. So in this situation, I am Michael. I have not understood one single sentence for weeks, but I know that Rinpoche understands the text and Rinpoche is giving the oral transmission. And I love to come to teachings because 100,000 million eons from now, I certainly shall understand them because of Rinpoche's blessing.
And the Michael saying and the Dharamsala, Cheshua Peresa, Inji Chimendo, the Rimje King of the meeting.
Really.
One pig penny, Kigansalia, Cheshua of that, called Koran Pugation Gomar was. You gave much in the Kashi, the Kubagation Mar and Gomar Slavers in Edrimich and the Lama and the Chesung was Chesung in the Gamare, Tebe and the Tebe pay, and the chick Dudan in the end, they were in a full pento wars. Church, that tables on your pento to 6 levels. And then I didn't say, and the Lam Rim and then mix it and the something low and the mix it and something low and the Chu de Balia. Talk with those Morai pitching that those Sunam side, check the ornament we can love in a go cover check those lonely go cover do in a room check any chick Jalun Robertson ye and a chick so society young grovas chick moumbal chick gave among way chelia so Namjiki say that something so Jamba check and the double run you'll get. Sonam Sagar was That's absolutely right. That's a good motivation. You can hear whether you understand or not.
Yeah.
So we'll stop here with this today.
당가 쪽에 단타 주전이게 진행제 바대게네 뭐서 고발에 마고나 되게 바차때 세비 떠제네 저는 제가 통제도네 실라 송제제 nenjol 당 면제와서나래 니 요한제도 랑질레 제바 하는데 니 랑질레 제바는 지신질레 제 니 랑신이가 된다 되와타이네 면랑당네 털니바야 은변나 주변 마스다 제바는 신절라도서 사나네 바와는 마차다.
So let's do our dedications by spending a couple of hours of receiving the teachings, discussing on the Lam Rim teachings, whether one have comprehended the entire teachings or the meanings of the teachings, or one have not comprehended at all, doesn't matter. Let's have a good motivations and dedicate all one's merits towards all beings and dedicating all one's merits towards the achievement of enlightenment of all other beings as well as oneself. And may all the Buddhas and the Bodhisattvas please bless me to be able to dedicate all my merits towards all sentient beings for their accomplishment of enlightenment. So particularly this particular month, it's a miracle. We call it a miracle month. It is not a one day of miracle. It is not just a one day, but rather it's a 15 long days of miracle days. We do have this starting from the first day of the Tibetan first month all the way to the 15th. So it's a very, very special days. So we, if one engages in the practice of the Dharma, or one engages in the virtuous deed, will the benefits will multiply greatly. Sorry.
得到根觉解释道路去，给我得到当机受度我，就说西边教我当机。我刚了出多我把的，大仙给月早晚的给讲，从不学习绕多。哎呀，对不起，Thank you。